Welcome to another Apollo Papyrus podcast episode. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, my interview guest is a former Disney cast member and the author of the dark fairytale retelling novel, Her Dark Promise. Her name is Bria Rose, and my interview with Bria will follow the note-taking sounds. Bria Rose, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Hi there, happy to be here.
Prior to becoming an author, you were a Disney cast member. What was it like to be a Disney cast member?
My goodness, I think the only word that's appropriate is chaotic and memorable. Okay, 2 words. I was there for a long time. I was there for about 6 to 7-ish years. It only stopped because COVID happened and it made me sad to leave, but all the memories I have of there I spent quite a few years in the food service industry, so specifically in California Adventure. I was at a place called Taste Pilot's Grill that then changed over to Smoke Jumpers. So I kind of did a lot of different things there, and then eventually I made my way over to PhotoPass towards the end of my Disney career. And every day I'm like, can I just go back, please? I miss it. Even I had early mornings and maybe like 12-hour days. Sometimes people made me cry a little bit, but it was the magic. It was the magic that kept me there during the holidays, during birthday celebrations. I definitely would not trade that experience for anything.
Feel free to tell our listeners more about yourself.
Well, let's see. Besides being a Disney fanatic, I came on here to talk about my book, but I'm not just a writer. I do a lot of different things. I'm a swim instructor during summer, and I love to read all different kinds of genres, not just dark romance. I have a huge obsession, not again with Disney, but also with currently anime. So when I'm not reading or writing, I'm binging seasons upon seasons of different anime shows.
Your dark romance novel is titled Her Dark Promise. Without spoiling too much about Her Dark Promise, what is your novel about?
So kind of going back to my Disney roots, I first got bit by the writing bug when I was younger in high school with my friend. And 10 years later, we decided to pick it back up. We had got, a little further into it, but, some things popped up for her, some things popped up for me. So we decided to set that aside. But I had already been bitten by the writing bug and I didn't want to stop. So when I read a book called A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, inspiration struck and I came up with, I'm like, you know what? I love, Being a Beast is probably my biggest obsession in my life. And I thought of a really good idea for a book where Belle's the Beast and Gaston are brothers who get trapped in her castle. And there's a lot of mayhem, chaos, but it's also such a wonderful story about, discovering who you are, kind of letting go of the past. Each character has their own traumas and battles to go through. But for our main character, for Belle as the Beast, her journey is all about letting go of the past and learning to love herself again, because right now I really put her through it.
Her Dark Promise is set in the fictional Everheart Kingdom. Did you do any world building in preparation for writing your novel? And if so, what was that like?
I am a first-time author, so I just had ideas, I wrote it, and it wasn't until I got with my editor, Erin, who is a lifesaver. She has definitely turned into such a dear friend, but she really helped me to understand how to build dynamic characters, how to build worlds that people want to be immersed in. So all of it has been trial and error. And the inspiration, of course, for the setting and the world building was, of course, Disney's Beauty and the Beast. So we only have really one main location besides the village that I really delve into So the world building isn't exactly huge. It wasn't too complex. But I just want to make sure that the main elements were there. We had the Forbidden Forest, a castle in the middle of the woods. We had isolation. I wanted the medieval aspects of the castle being spooky. And so I really tried to build, and hopefully people really feel a connection to the location and the magic and everything that I really did try to build in, 400 or so pages. It's a lot.
Did your work at Disney inspire Her Dark Promise, and if so, how?
I would say it did. With my time at Disney, you can't get away from it. I mean, the moment you step onto Disney property, you're seeing hidden Mickeys everywhere. You're seeing, especially in like sometimes I had 4 a.m. shifts. The music would still be on, the lights would still be on. And so you're just immersed in the entire culture that is Disney. Like when you hire into Disney, you have like a week or so of training of the the I think it's like 4 or 5 the keys of Disney. So while working there, I definitely want to say I was influenced because not just of the atmosphere, but also for a long time I would do my research. I'm like, oh, having like really weird fun facts about Disney. I've kind of forgotten some of it so far, but I don't know how I wouldn't be uh inspired by my time at Disney. I'm trying to think specifically, but so nothing really comes to mind specifically, but just in general, um, my main research for Her Dark Promise was getting to know behind the scenes of how the movie itself was made. And like the Everhart name in general was actually the last name of the voice actor who played Maurice. So I really tried to bring a lot of Disney fun facts and movie fun facts into the book.
What motivated you to write a dark romance novel, and what do you love most about the dark romance genre?
My mom asks me that all the time. She's always like, "Why did you have to write a spicy book?" And I said, "Honestly, I'm kind of good at it. I love delving into, it's so weird to say, but traumas, it's not really just that, but it's just, I like getting my hands into if someone goes through this, what would they feel through? What would they go through? I feel like a lot of people have all different sorts of disorders and traumas and there's so many things that makes the human experience complex and beautiful. And while dark romance are really the only difference between like young adult dark romance is just the darker themes, and of course mine specifically is the spice. It's not only do I just enjoy it, I enjoy telling people stories in real life. For example, Calathea, who is our beast character, she goes through abandonment, betrayal. She's cursed to be alone and unloved forever for over 300 years. So as a girl at 18 who just lost her entire family, her mom, dad, sister, entire kingdom, gone from being a princess and beloved by all to alone with just herself, how would someone deal with anger, bitterness, guilt? How I really enjoy playing and developing these types of characters.
How long did it take you to write your novel, and what were the easiest and hardest parts of writing that novel for you?
Oh my goodness. So there are some times when I wanted to chuck my laptop out the window because sometimes I think the hardest thing for me is if I can't see it in my head, then I can't write it. And so if I'm having writer's block and it's not a clear picture, then a lot of it's forced. And I've come to learn that about myself. I'm like, you know what? Take a break. It's okay to not write. Like, it took me about 2 years to write Her Dark Promise, but it took me a few months to write the entire book. I sent it to my editor that I found on a website called Fiverr. I got very lucky. uh, and we were going to have it done within like a year, maybe a year and a half, not really, more closer to a year after I sent it to her. But we just kept coming up with really cool ideas. I'm like, oh, what if this person was related to this person? What if this person did that? And so that's why it took an extra year because it was my first debut novel. I wanted to make sure that I, told these stories to the best of my ability. And I really do feel like we have a really awesome product, really amazing story, a story that really should be read. I read all of my reviews and I love it when I see like this book needs to be read by many. It's a story that needs to be told. And I just think the hardest part is trying to make sure that I can see it in my mind's eye, each scene, and just making sure that I tell their story in full. I don't leave anything out.
Her Dark Promise is independently published. What was it like for you to get your novel independently published?
So my editor is traditionally published. So I did a lot of my own research, like on YouTube, like should I do traditional? Should I try to find an agent? Should I go that route? Or should I just learn everything myself, which I ended up doing that. But it was really nice having guidance from my editor to help me make that decision because she's like, hey, I know you want to write a lot of books and just publish them, really quickly, just letting you know that it might take a year or two before your first book even sees the shelves. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to wait. I don't want to do that. If an opportunity pops up, then that's amazing. But I'd rather just try to do it myself. So I went to YouTube and I would spend hours just researching. I wanted to make sure I did everything correct. So I, opened an LLC. I looked up keyword, like, because the whole posting or publishing on Amazon and Ingram Spark really isn't that difficult, but you just want to make sure everything's the way that it needs to be. It does cost quite a bit. That's why a lot of people I feel like don't self-publish is you got to do everything yourself, and it does cost quite a pretty penny. Um, so I I don't know. I'm really happy I went the self-publishing route. I definitely wouldn't change it.
Would you write books other than fairy tale retellings? And if so, what are some ideas you have for books that are not fairy tale retellings? Because I understand Her Dark Promise is a fairy tale retelling. Uh, but what are some ideas you have for books that are not fairy tale retellings that you will or may write in the future if you have any?
So my editor and I were talking about, what kind of direction do I want to take my career as a self-published author? She's like, you can pretty much do anything you want, but your readers are going to expect something from you. So while I do have quite a bit of fairy tale retellings in my docket of, I'm currently working on a spicy Pinocchio retelling. I just got picked up by a company to write a dark romance Shrek retelling. So there's definitely retellings still on my docket I'm very excited about. But there are, some other stories of my own that I'd like to tell. So so the one with my friend is still in production. That one is like a fae story. There's no retellings at all. That is all our own story that we came up in high school. It definitely has gotten better over the years. But the one I'm really excited about is a Klaus and Caroline inspired book. So if anyone's familiar with Vampire Diaries, it's two characters from that TV show that I believe should have been Endgame, but they weren't. Spoilers for anybody who hasn't watched. I'm so sorry. It's been out for over 10 years, so sorry about that. But it's their story where, you have the supernatural world, and I really enjoyed I haven't started writing it yet. I'm going to start writing it probably in September, October to be published early next year. But it's going to be a trilogy and hopefully a bigger universe in general, kind of like Rena Kent, how you have the couples for each book. So we're going to start as a trilogy and kind of go from there, but we're going to have werewolves and vampires and we have a sunshine character who is type A and loud. I really am excited to work with this Caroline character. Her name's Reagan, who is unapologetically loud in herself, while also dealing with trying to be the perfect daughter to her father. So we got all of those. And then we have our Klaus character who is broody and angry and grumpy because, he has dealt with trauma when he was younger. So kind of like the Grumpy with Sunshine vibe is going to be really fun to play with. And I know there's a lot of Vampire Diaries fans out there, so I'm really excited to bring this story to life for them.
One final question. You are, and this is an interesting fact to be about you, but in addition to being an author and a former Disney cast member, you're also a certified scuba diver. What do you love
Yeah.
most about scuba diving?
I think that's the closest that I'm going to get to flying. Like the first time that I went diving was in Santorini, Greece a few years ago, and you could just see for miles. And it did take a minute to get used to tricking my brain, like, no, 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 you can now breathe. You know, you have the oxygen to take and everything there. And when you finally kind of give in to the fear of, I'm not gonna drink, you just have to kind of let the fear go. But after that, it's as if you're weightless, and it's such an incredible experience. I wouldn't want to do it in really bad conditions because it can get very dangerous. But I do plan on doing more dives in very clear situations.
Bria, thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast. You were an amazing guest.
Oh, thank you so much. I was really excited to be here today.
Fairytale retellings are an interesting book genre, and it was amazing to interview Bria about the book Her Dark Promise. With that said, I'm going to provide a bit of an update on the upload schedule for the rest of Season 9 of this podcast, as well as the start of Season 10. If all goes to plan, I will be uploading the Season 9 finale no later than April 10th, and I will be uploading the Season 10 premiere no later than April 20th. I will upload more Season 9 episodes in 2026 than in 2025, believe it or not. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to find your writing and reading purpose. Bye for now. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this podcast episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.